Welcome to the Good Roads Podcast, and welcome back to the Bulletin Breakdown. You know how it goes. We have three interesting topics that are relevant and important to municipalities across Ontario, and we're going to discuss them with our two contributors, Thomas and Andrew. Thomas, Andrew, how's it going, guys?
It's going well, Jared.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Staying indoors from this icy network. I'm just trying to figure out if I should salt my steps or if it's going to melt. But there's a nice thin coating of ice everywhere right now.
Yeah, we're seeing that where I am as well, and I'm hoping we're out of that soon and into the warm weather because I am looking forward to summer. All right. We are going to jump right into it today. Everybody knows how this goes. You both know how it goes. Our listeners who've been around for 4 episodes now know how it goes. So we're going to start off with our first and possibly most important topic today, the harmonization regulation in gestation. And I'm going to repeat that again because I screwed that up. Harmonization regulation in gestation. We're talking about the amendment to the Public Transportation and Highway Improvement Act, but we're going to let you two get into it. We're going to start in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks, Jared. Just so everyone is clear, because that was a very ambiguous kind of title. This is actually about the harmonization of municipal road construction standards. So a lot of you probably were aware that this was coming because the province started consultations with industry, with some municipalities, some association groups such as ours back in the summer, actually, back in summer 2025. And there was legislation that was introduced in the fall, which actually amended this act that you were just alluding to, Jared, which actually gave the Minister of Transportation the ability to set mandatory municipal road construction standards. So we knew that the regulation was going to come at some point in the future because the minister now had the power to do it, but we hadn't seen it yet. What's happened now in the past week and a bit? Actually, no, not even a week. Yeah, just over a week. The proposed regulation has now been posted to the Environmental Registry of Ontario. It is there. It is live online. We've linked it in our bulletin for the week. I encourage you all to kind of go out there, take a look at it. Let us know what your thoughts are. Try to prepare a submission if you can as well. But we really want to hear from you on this. But basically, just very high level, just so if you're listening to this and you want to know like kind of what the changes are, it would require municipalities to adopt the OPSS.MUNI standards. They're starting off with just in 3 areas because there's going to be kind of a gradual transition phase or phased implementation, but only for hot mix asphalt, aggregates, and drainage. The further phases, sorry, if you're going to jump in there, Andrew.
We were waiting to figure out, like, we didn't know how this was going to be rolled out, and like you said, it's going to be a phased approach. So I think that's probably going to make things a little bit easier. But it's just on that 3 approaches to begin, and then there's going to be additional standards for electrical, concrete, and metal work in future phases. So this is going to be. You know what? I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, well, you know what? So I'll get you back on track there, Andrew.
Yeah. Thank you.
so municipalities are going to have to adopt the OPSS.MUNI 100 general conditions of contract, and the key kind of date or deadline that we have here that they've proposed is July 1st, 2027. So this kind of gets kind of this construction season out of the way, and then it kind of gets people ready to kind of have this in place for kind of halfway through next year's construction season. But nevertheless, this is it's a big shift in municipal autonomy. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the province. Some people would say the province is kind of overstepping again. I wouldn't say that necessarily that is the case, but some might feel that way because the province is kind of dictating the terms here.
But this is something that Good Roads has kind of been in support of before. We've done advocacy work, especially in related to things like adopting RAP, and we've flirted with asking province to do things like mandate these kind of things. They've taken this a step further and sort of mandated it because it does really have the potential to save municipalities in the long run. Now, what that the roadblock is, or the hiccups for that, is that some municipalities are going to be affected a lot more than others. Some of them are going to have a lot more transition costs. And right now we're just sort of finding out who that's going to be. I think when this was first announced, we thought a lot of the northern and rural municipalities would take the hardest hit, but a lot of those are already following. From what we're finding out, a lot of them are already kind of close to OPS.MUNI. It's a lot of these mid-sized ones that, some of them are using Marshall mixes, and OPS.MUNI has super pave. Now we're still trying to wrap our heads around what those costs are going to be for those municipalities. And this is something that we went to Queen's Park in November to talk about, because we knew there was going to be transition costs, and we were advocating to ask for some sort of like funding or help along the way from the province to give those municipalities aren't left in the dust in this transition.
Yeah. And then I guess like the last point I'll make on this, or two last points really quickly. One is there's an added kind of administrative burden to this. We're trying to reduce red tape, but having to kind of report to MTO on kind of what's going on is one thing that we've kind of flagged. The second thing is that there is an exemption process that's going to exist, but it's up to the minister's discretion to kind of make that call. So we want to learn a little bit more about that before we kind of.
And we've been talking for 5 minutes, but I just want to say, it's just like I find that kind of interesting, because we've also flagged that, like, does the province want 444 annual reports on their adherence to this? There's got to be. I feel like there's got to be a way to figure out how to reduce that administrative burden, because like there's a huge municipal reporting burden from to various ministries as it is.
All right, and we'll call it right there. That's a lot of good information on this new procedure, new process, and like Thomas and Andrew said, check out the bulletin and look for the link to submit your comments. We definitely appreciate it, and we'll work hard to advocate on behalf of you with these comments. And with that, we're going to put that one in the books, and we're going to move on to our next story. And the stats are in: more fatalities on Ontario's roads. That is ominous and not good sounding. We're going to put 5 minutes back on the clock, everybody. And in 3, 2, 1, let's go.
Yeah, so this is one where I take a grimmer note. The Ontario government, MTO, has released, and I'm going to try not to say finally, but they finally released the the Ontario Road Safety Report. Sorry, I'm just blanking on the title. The Road Safety Annual Report. So the RSAR report. So the RSAR report just came out for 2022. There's usually, it even says right in the report, there's usually a two-year delay. This one has obviously a closer to 4-year delay. To say that data is fragmented in Ontario, I think this is kind of representative of that. So the 2022 full report is out, and they released the 2024 preliminary report. So we have those numbers now. So 2024, the preliminary number was 617 fatalities on Ontario roads. And I just want to point out 155 deaths are attributed to speeding, and that is a high since 2006. We've been seeing a continual increase in speeding relating deaths since the start of the pandemic. They just seem to go up every single year. So this is something that's, I don't know. I've been paying attention to these reports going back, 30 years.
Yeah.
We've made huge progress in the province. We had like in 1996 we had 929 deaths and 88,000 injuries. We got to this low point in 2011 with 498, down to 62,000. But it's every year since then, we have 500 to 600 people dying on Ontario roads. And that just seems to be the cost that we're paying. Right. Now, there's a lot of other factors in here. We've gotten more cars on the road every year from here, and we got more lane kilometers. So all of those metrics are going up. And we're making little changes here and there. But a lot of we still have that baseline there. And I want to say a lot of this is to do with cars getting safer. Drivers are dying less. We've gotten down to 37,000 injuries. So that number keeps on going down while the amount of deaths stays static. And the the amount of pedestrians dying, like as far as you can go back in these reports, it's always about 100 to 150, right in that window. We got down. We were lucky in 2010 when we got down to 95, right in that 2010 2011 area where we were really making progress. And then it's just consistently over 100 every single year since then. So it's like the vehicles are getting safer, drivers aren't dying, but pedestrians definitely keep dying. Those vulnerable road users are still at the exact same risk as they were in 1996.
Right. And so I guess, like, in a sense, Andrew, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you're kind of the aficionado here on this stuff, since you've parsed through this one and the past few in great and fine detail, as you're kind of the in-house expert on this. But everything's kind of plateaued since 2011 in terms of the number of people dying, the number of injury, like the injuries you said has gone down. Yeah. But essentially 15 years, nothing has really, like, we haven't gotten better in 15 years, right? Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's like the metrics are going up for amount of drivers. So it's like, you got more people on the road, and there's always that so your ratio is getting smaller of the amount of people per like 100,000, but that tally doesn't change, so it's like we're sort of reaching our limit in like how we can reduce those numbers, and that's that's a huge conversation about, like, we're not adopting Vision Zero principles. I highly recommend people to read this report, because it's anybody who's in this road safety space, there's a lot of interesting tidbits in there. But if you go in there, and like every year, like the report will list like what we've done to what kind of changes we make, like and it really aligns with like how they're targeting it. And a lot of it has to do with licensing. A lot of it has to do with
enforcement.
Enforcement and like the system change, like how we're punishing people and stuff like that. But what's not in there is like, what are we doing to change the roads? What are we doing to make our roads safer? Those changes are not listed in there. And a lot of them are being made, especially on the municipal level. But like globally, it looks like really we're tackling like drunk drivers and stuff like that. And less so speeders and stuff like that. So,
and you know what? This is a really nice seg into our next story. We can kind of pick up here for the next one.
Yeah.
That's right, Thomas. We can definitely pick up to the next one. So next story is about road safety. This one's about speed bumps. Is this going to help the death toll in Ontario and the injuries and so on and so forth? Let's find out. Thomas, you're going to take this one?
Sure. Yeah, I'll get the ball rolling on this, and I'm sure Andrew's going to want to chime in. But yeah, basically, and again, just to kind of, this is not just about speed bumps. This is about, so MTO just announced, very recently, that they've now launched the second phase of the Road Safety Initiatives Fund. So this fund, a lot of you may remember, was kind of born in early November when the province decided to move away from automated speed enforcement, and said that they were going to kind of replace that approach with a way to kind of improve infrastructure to slow people down. So kind of, in a sense, it's speed reduction without enforcement, but through infrastructure, engineering, and design. And you know what? Although we would normally advocate for having all the tools in our tool belt, we're very happy to see that the province is getting serious about this kind of stuff. Because if I had to pick one tool to use, again, I'd prefer all of them, but if I had to pick one, I would choose changing the infrastructure, designing the road so that people can't speed or they're forced to slow down, to kind of take into consideration these vulnerable road users. And so this will apply into school zones. Phase 1 had $42 million assigned to it, and it was kind of already been distributed. Phase 2, applications open February 19th. There's $168 million now available. And we know that this is going to affect probably about 40 municipalities. Only 40 municipalities had these systems, I would say, largely in urban areas, but I know there were municipalities that were rural or semi-rural, and I know others were considering bringing these in as well. And so I know we've heard some grumblings about how this is a bit unfair, because
a little exclusive. So it's one of those things where it's like, 40 municipalities are going to be taking or applying for some funding to put in road measures. And I know we've spoken to some of the municipalities, and they are trying to figure out how they can best use these funds and try to develop some not necessarily standards, but some common practices and stuff like that. So figure out like, okay, so, a lot of them have common environments for where these speed cameras, where they, I mean, like a lot of them were school zones, safety zones. So it's one of those things where it's just like, yeah, like Thomas said, if you really want to have a big impact on those numbers, it's like you need all of them. You do need speed cameras. You need traditional enforcement. You need speed cameras. You need things that like reduce the load, discourage speeding, and then yes, this is the aspect that makes it a lot harder to speed. So those changes definitely need to be made if we're going to have a big impact on reducing these numbers.
Yeah, and this could be like roundabouts, raised crosswalks, speed bumps, as alluded to in the title of this, but things that physically prevent drivers from speeding in the first place. Which again, I think that's great. I've had the privilege of going to Sweden to take a course on Vision Zero. For those of you who don't know, Sweden's like the world leader in Vision Zero. Vision Zero comes out from there. And I witnessed a lot of these things like in person. They physically took us out. I saw raised crosswalks. I saw them in urban areas, rural areas, suburban areas, school zones. And I can tell you that it makes a really, really big difference. I remember watching children just walking on their own, crossing some of these streets during rush hour, and drivers were kind of forced to stop coming up to these. Some of these roundabouts had kind of a raised crosswalk going into it. So right next to a school. So these interventions are out there. I really do hope that those practitioners in Ontario are learning from the best practices abroad. And Andrew, you alluded to kind of, people are going to be checking notes here and comparing notes. Yeah. But I would love to do a study tour in Sweden with some of these people who are going to be installing, because I was blown away.
Yeah, so Sweden's definitely the gold standard for this kind of infrastructure, it's a good step in this direction that we are going to be actually putting provincial funding towards installing these sort of things. So, I mean, I'm hoping this is kind of the first step. Is like, look how effective this was. Let's sort of expand this out beyond these 40 municipalities.
I'd say the same thing, and I would love to see this just to be the beginning, and then allow some of those rural municipalities. I mean, obviously, we know rural municipalities and rural roads are some of the most dangerous. They're not always community safety zones and school zones, but if we can apply that same kind of logic and that same kind of thinking to rural municipalities as well, and like I said, in all sorts of different areas, it can make a big difference and get those deaths and those injuries down in that
exactly. And just as a final point is like, we know that there's speeders all across the province, and that was just like one less tool that we have to stop them. We can only do so much enforcement on speeding. It's a wicked problem, because as the stats show, is like a lot of these people just don't care about fines. They'll just continue speeding continuously. So it's just like, we need to actually put in infrastructure that makes it harder for them.
All right, fantastic discussion, gentlemen. Let's wrap it up there. 3 interesting topics and 3 great takes on them. Let's move on to our Something Fun segment. And something fun for me is, I understand we have an announcement about another keynote speaker at the Good Roads Conference. Mr. Thomas, you want to take it away?
I do. Yeah. I'm happy to, I guess, to say, and as someone who's, political junkie, I think, and, I appreciate this more maybe than a lot of other people, but yeah, we're happy to announce former Alberta Premier, Jason Kenney, is going to be speaking at the conference. I know I was not just trying to pander to Andrew, who is a transplanted Albertan into Ontario, but we've heard good things about him on the kind of speakers circuit, and especially in this kind of era of geopolitical uncertainty. National unity has become a hot topic again, unfortunately. But hearing from someone who's kind of was in the trenches here as Alberta Premier, and then now can kind of step back and kind of speak to it, I think is going to be really, really, really interesting. So I'm looking forward to that, and that's something fun for me anyway. I don't know about everybody else.
I wonder if we can get Ontario's Premier together with him and have a little chat on stage.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. We'll see.
Well, yeah, no comment on that at this point. But
and we also have a new study tour to add to the agenda, kind of in line with our first story. We are going to be doing a study tour of a paving plant. Is it Miller Paving, correct?
Yes, Miller Paving. Yeah, we're going to be partnering with them to take some delegates from the Royal York up to their plant up in Scarborough, and they're going to kind of walk through the process of asphalt production. We're going to kind of focus on some wrap. When I say wrap, obviously I don't mean wrapping, but you know what I mean. And then some talk about also some QC, some quality control as well. And this would be a great opportunity for municipal people, public works people, that sort of stuff, to talk to producers directly about how potentially the harmonization could affect them, which could affect you as well. So it's a good way to kind of get the conversation going and to see the impacts there.
Oh, that's fantastic. And a lot of good stuff about the conference. I was just at Real Sports for our Monday night session. That looks like that's gearing up to be fantastic. And a shout out to ATS, who's going to be sponsoring that.
Jared, I just want to, how many visits to Real Sports do you have to do for research purposes? I feel like maybe this is maybe overkill. What, it's just like your fourth time going just to scope out the place and make sure everything's right for you. How much were the wings, Jared? How many beers did you have?
More than enough. I know that our delegates will have a great time there, and keep in mind too that the Blue Jays are going to be in town right after the Monday night social is when first pitch happens. So you have the option of going over to the Jays game, or we've talked with Real Sports and you can reserve a table if you check out the accommodations page on the Good Roads Conference site. And reserve a table for yourself to enjoy the game on the
really studying for Real Sports here.
Yeah, it really is. I think they might be paying him in free wings or something. But Jared, is that opening weekend for the Jays?
No, I think that's actually might be.
Okay, so I think opening weekend. The Jays clearly aren't paying Jared. It's just,
Yeah. Well, if it is, if any people coming in for the conference want to go to the Jays game, better get your tickets now. That's the case.
Yeah,
definitely. You got to get your tickets to the conference first, though. And early bird special ends March 15th. Do not waste your time to get that. You do not want to be explaining to your boss why you had to pay more for tickets because you just put it off and put it off and put it off.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right. So further to that, we got a great program, great keynotes, as Thomas just mentioned. Jason Kenney, you heard it here first, folks. And these study tours are shaping up to be fantastic as always. So we're gonna put a cap on it right there. We're gonna end it, and I want to thank Thomas and Andrew for stepping in again and letting us know what's going on in Ontario. And until next time, everybody, take it easy.